A very good morning to all of you.
Good
I
morning,
Good morning,
sir.
sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Okay. So last week we started with glycolysis, and we will be continuing with glycolysis in today and tomorrow's lecture because it's a huge pathway in terms of the number of reactions, and there are a lot of points to discuss. So today and tomorrow's lecture also will go in discussing the reactions itself, and thereafter we will see some of the theoretical aspects related to glycolysis. So last time I remember that after the introduction of glycolysis, we also discussed one reaction of glycolysis, which was phosphorylation. So we were able to discuss that part, wherein we saw the reaction. We saw that the first reaction is wherein you add a phosphate group to glucose. The donor of this phosphate is ATP, wherein the phosphate from ATP is removed in presence of a water molecule, such that ATP is converted to ADP and H3PO4 is formed. This H3PO4 donates the phosphate group to glucose, where it is attached to the sixth carbon of glucose, thereby forming a product called as glucose 6 phosphate. And we also said that the enzyme which catalyzes this reaction, whenever you are adding a phosphate or removing a phosphate, and if ATP ADP is involved in the process, then the enzyme name normally is kinase, and every enzyme has a prefix associated to it. So here are a prefix. Normally the prefixes are based on the substrate. Not always, but most of the times you will see that it's based on the substrate. So glucose being a 6 carbon compound, we are referring to the enzyme as hexokinase. And we also said that in liver, we have this enzyme called as glucokinase. So they are structurally quite similar. There might be slight differences here and there due to the composition of the protein, but the function that they carry out is exactly the same. We also said that the delta G for this reaction is minus 4000 calories at pH 7. Now, please remember, students, that this reaction is unidirectional in cells, which means that it proceeds in only one direction. It cannot be reversed. The energy is released in this process. It's obvious because you are hydrolyzing the terminal phosphate bond of ATP, so energy is going to be released in this process. And let me tell you that in animal cells, this enzyme has a molecular weight of around 1 lakh. It's a monomer, which means that it's a single unit of enzyme. In many, enzymes, you see that the enzyme is made up of multiple protein subunits. To give you an example of a protein like hemoglobin, you know that it's a tetramer because there are 4 subunits, 2 alpha and 2 beta. So when you say it's a monomer, it means that it's a single protein unit. And this enzyme's activity is normally inhibited by its own product, which means that it has a feedback inhibition mechanism. Which means that if glucose 6 phosphate starts accumulating, it can bind to the enzyme, to its own enzyme which is producing it, and inhibit more production of glucose 6 phosphate. Okay, so the product itself is going to stop its production because enough of that product is already made. Now, in yeast, there is a difference in this enzyme. It has been noted that in yeast, it's a dimer. There are 2 subunits. Di stands for 2, right? And each subunit has a catalytic site, which means that a single unit of the enzyme can metabolize or can convert 2 glucose molecules to 2 molecules of glucose 6 phosphate, because each enzyme has 2 subunits and every subunit has a catalytic site. So the conversion rate will be faster. Now, the molecular weight of this enzyme in yeast is comparatively very less as what it was in animal cells. It's around 55,000. Now, we need to understand that hexokinases, they normally form phosphate esters, like you see glucose 6 phosphate. So they normally form phosphate esters. Okay, but there are few exceptions. Kinases always do not form phosphate esters, but in glycolysis, we see that their basic role is to form for 6-phosphate esters. Okay, but there are many kinases which also form 1-phosphate esters. Now, 6-phosphate esters means what? It adds the phosphate group to the 6th carbon. But there are several kinases which can add the phosphate group to the 1st carbon. Okay, so different kinases will have different positional mechanisms, which means that where do they want to add the phosphate group? That's going to depend on the type of kinase that you are working with. But in glycolysis, what you see basically over here is the 6-phosphate ester. But inside the cell, you will always see kinases which can also form 1-phosphate esters. Now let us come to the affinity of the enzyme. So hexokinase, it has a lot of affinity towards glucose, ATP, because both of these are the substrates that are needed for the reaction to proceed towards completion, right? You will also see that it has some amount of affinity for ADP, and you can see that it also has an affinity for glucose 6-phosphate. But what is shocking is it has a lot of affinity for the product, which shows that how stringently they follow the feedback mechanism. The product inhibition is going to be very strong. So if glucose 6-phosphate doesn't proceed further and if it starts accumulating in the cell, then product inhibition will happen very fast, because you can see that the affinity for glucose 6-phosphate in the enzyme is much, much higher than what it is for the substrates of the reaction. 0.08 molar किधर और 1 into 10 raised to minus 5 molar किधर. The substrate से ज़्यादा affinity it has for the product. Now you will say that, sir, if it is true, then glucose 6-phosphate should immediately inhibit hexokinase, no? So do not forget, students, that glucose 6-phosphate is not the ultimate destination in glycolysis. That glucose 6-phosphate is going to be further converted into something else. So there is no chance of it accumulating until and unless there is some block in the pathway or glycolysis is coming to a stop. Otherwise, there is no reason for glucose 6-phosphate to accumulate. It will be immediately converted into the next substrate in the pathway, right? So there is no chance of it accumulating. But if it starts accumulating in very low concentration itself, it will be recognized by hexokinase and it will thereby inhibit your process. Does this make sense to all of you? Are you all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have already said that in liver, instead of hexokinase, we have glucokinase. Okay. Now, what's the job of glucokinase enzyme? So earlier in our discussions, we have seen that how liver also maintains blood sugar level. Whenever there is a shortage of sugar in blood, we had seen how liver breaks down glycogen and it provides glucose to the blood. And we had discussed those T1, T2, T3 transporters, if you remember. But also understand that it can also do the reverse job. When there is a lot of glucose in blood, it will take that excess of glucose from the blood and it will store it in the form of glycogen. So अगर खून में ज्यादा ग्लूकोज है तो उसको अंदर लिया जाएगा और उसको स्टोर किया जाएगा एज ग्लाइकोजन. अब ये जो ग्लूकोकाइनेज है, ये ब्लड शुगर को अंदर लेते वक्त उसको फॉस्फोराइलेट करता है इनटू ग्लूकोज 6-phosphate. Now the fate will be decided if it wants to get into glycolysis or should we convert it into glycogen. So that fate will be decided on the basis of requirement of energy. If energy is needed, it will be immediately metabolized. And if energy is not needed, then for the time being, that glucose can be added to the polymer, which is glycogen. Okay. So please understand that glucokinase has this job of scavenging all excess glucose which is present in the blood. Now we go to our next reaction, which is isomerization. So can someone tell me first what isomerization is? What are isomers?
Like same chemical formula, but only the position of some compound will differ.
Right. So glucose and fructose are the best examples for this. Both of them have the same molecular formula, But when you have a close look at its structure, you will realize that the structure is very different. And that's the reason why, the properties and the function of these two molecules will also differ to a great extent. So in isomerization reactions, you are going to convert a chemical to its isomeric form. Okay, that's why we call it as isomerization. Like if it is glucose, I would convert it into fructose or vice versa. Okay, isomerization reactions are reversible reactions. You can reverse them back. So the way you have converted it to one isomeric form, you can reconvert it to the previous isomeric form. So it's a reversible reaction. Okay. Now I want all of you to switch to the whiteboard. I'm sorry, I do not have the writing slate with me. There's some problem with it today. So please bear with me today and switch to the whiteboard. Okay, where I'll be writing the reaction down. So let us see what actually happens in the process of isomerization first. So we know that till now, the product that we had got from the very first reaction, we all know the product, right? The product is glucose 6 phosphate. That's our product. So that becomes the reactant for this particular process. So I'm writing the structure of glucose 6 phosphate. This is my glucose 6 phosphate. Okay. Now I'm going to isomerize it. Glucose ka isomer is fructose, right? So glucose 6 phosphate ka isomer will be fructose 6 phosphate. Okay. So we are going to isomerize it to fructose 6 phosphate. So this is fructose 6 phosphate. Now always remember that for isomerization, the enzyme is isomerase. Okay, always for isomerization, you will see that the enzyme name is isomerase. Now I have told you that enzyme name always has a prefix to it, and prefix is on the basis of the substrate that you are working with. Now my substrate here is glucose 6 phosphate. I have glucose, which is a 6 carbon compound, and I have a phosphate group attached to it. So I cannot ignore that phosphate when I frame the prefix. So that phosphate will be given the first preference in writing the prefix. So I have phospho, as it's a 6 carbon compound, hexo. So phospho hexo isomerase, or you can also write it as phospho glucoisomerase. Both are okay. Okay, so you can either write it as phosphohexoisomerase or you will write it as phosphoglucoisomerase. For this also, the cofactor is magnesium ions, Mg2 plus. ठीक है, अभी जैसा इजी ये रिएक्शन दिखता है उतना आसान ये नहीं है. Okay, so there are intermediates in this process which are formed, which is not evident in this single step reaction that we have shown, because this reaction doesn't take place as a single step process. There is an intermediate in it which is getting overlooked in this process. So we will have to see what that intermediate basically is. Okay. So I have told you not to write the reactions with me. Have patience. I will tell you how to note it down. Okay. So let us see what that intermediate basically is. Okay. So I'm going to write glucose 6 phosphate in a slightly different manner. Okay. So just pay attention. I'm opening up the ring structure to form a linear structure. This is my glucose 6 phosphate. Okay. Now, in this process, the first step that we are going to do is get rid of a proton. Now, where is that proton coming from? The proton is being removed from this carbon. This hydrogen is going to be removed. Okay, and it's going to go and attach to a group in the enzyme. So let us call that group in the enzyme as B. So B is going to act as the hydrogen acceptor temporarily. It's a amino acid of the enzyme which is going to accept it, and it's going to act as a carrier of hydrogen for some amount of time. So I'm just labeling it as B. It's going to accept the proton. Okay, so after the proton is removed, okay, what is going to happen is what we have to see. Okay, so after the proton is removed, the compound that we are going to be left with looks like this. C double bond OH, C. Okay, there's going to be a double bond formation over here after removing hydrogen. The COH, COH, and H, CHOH, CHOH, and CH2OPO3H2. So nothing, I have just removed the hydrogen, so there is a formation of this double bond between the two carbons at the top. Okay, so the first and the second carbon now have a double bond between them. This particular intermediate that is being formed is what I call as cis-ene-diol. Okay, cis-ene-diol is the intermediate that is being formed. Now the next step is wherein you already have the enzyme wherein it has taken up the hydrogen and it's waiting here. So now what we are going to do is, using this hydrogen, we are going to break this double bond, okay, and we are going to get rid of this hydrogen. Okay, we are going to remove this and release it as a proton. So the very next step is going to be wherein we are going to remove a hydrogen. Okay, this hydrogen of OH will be removed, of the hydroxyl group will be removed, and the hydrogen which was removed earlier is going to be utilized. Okay, and also this proton that you have removed right now will also be readjusted. It will be rearranged. You will see how. So look at the structure now carefully. I have this carbon. I have two hydrogens and one hydroxyl. Now where did two hydrogens come from? One was already present, right? Second came from this BH. And OH mein hydrogen has come from what you have removed from the hydroxyl group on the second carbon, has been shifted to the first carbon, forming a hydroxyl group there. So due to this, what happens is that now the second carbon is just a C double bond O group. I'm repeating again. पहले कार्बन पर एक हाइड्रोजन ऑलरेडी था और एक डबल बॉन्ड ऑक्सीजन था. उसमें दूसरा हाइड्रोजन आया फ्रॉम दिस BH, जिससे हमने पहले हाइड्रोजन निकाला था जो कैरियर था, दैट्स गिविंग दैट हाइड्रोजन. हाइड्रोक्सिल ग्रुप हम वहां पर बना पा रहे फ्रॉम द हाइड्रोजन दैट वी आर गोइंग टू रिमूव फ्रॉम द सेकंड कार्बन हाइड्रोक्सिल ग्रुप. So what is now left behind at the second carbon is C double bond O. And what is there at the first carbon is CH2OH. Rest of the part will be as it is. No change at all. And this thing is nothing but your fructose 6-phosphate. So it's just to tell you that the enzyme is basically rearranging hydrogens, thereby converting glucose 6-phosphate to its isomeric form, fructose 6-phosphate. Is this clear to all of you? Have you all understood this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now I want you to switch
Yes.
to the PPT. And when you switch to the PPT, you will see the reaction there in a much legible format than what I write normally. So please copy this down. Also, please note that when you copy this, यहाँ पर भी रिवर्सिबल एरो दिखाना। यहाँ पे अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैंने सिंगल एरो दिखाया है, यहाँ पर भी रिवर्सिबल एरो दिखाना है। ठीक है, so please note this down. So the delta G for this is a positive value, which means that it's not going to be very spontaneous, and there has to be, you know, a very good enzyme which has the ability to push this reaction in the forward direction, because it's plus 400 calories that you see as your delta G value. So please note this down. Once you write it, just let me know in the chat box that you are done. And be careful with the writing part. Try to note it as it is from the slide. And if you have questions, you can ask. Okay, so I can see maximum of you are done. So let us quickly go ahead. So you saw that cis-ene-diol intermediate is formed in this particular process, and this enzyme normally works for hexose sugars. So any kind of hexose sugar, you can see that phosphohexoisomerase can work effectively for its conversion. Now we go to the third step. So the first step was phosphorylation, the second step was isomerization, the third step is again a phosphorylation. Okay. So let us basically see what happens in this particular reaction right now. The product that you have is fructose 6 phosphate, right? So you can switch to the whiteboard where I'll be showing you the reaction. So what right now we have with us is this particular compound where I have CH2OH, H, OH, H, H, OH, CH2, PO3, H2H. This is nothing but fructose 6 phosphate. Now I'm going to do a phosphorylation, which means again ATP here is going to act as the donor of phosphate group. I'm going to add a phosphate, and that phosphate is now going to go to the first carbon. So this is where the phosphate group is basically going to be attached. Okay. So which means that now my compound will have two phosphate groups, one on the sixth carbon and yet another one on the first carbon. So first let us see how the product looks like, and then we will discuss the rest of the aspects of it. OH, H, H, OH. On the sixth carbon, I already have a phosphate group attached. Now on the first carbon also, I will have a phosphate group attached. Okay, I missed an oxygen over here in between. There should be an oxygen because it's a phosphate ester, right? So this is how the structure is going to look like. So now I have two phosphates attached to fructose. So how will I write the name of the compound? It's going to be fructose 1, 6. This indicates that there is phosphate group on the first carbon as well as on the sixth carbon. Diphosphate. Okay, so fructose 1, 6 diphosphate, or you can also see the books writing it as bisphosphate. It's one and the same. So fructose 1, 6 bisphosphate or fructose 1, 6 diphosphate. You can use either of the two terms. It is completely fine. Now I've told you that whenever it's phosphorylation and ATP or ADP is involved, what is going to be your enzyme? It's going to be kinase. Kinase has a prefix. Prefix is on the basis of the substrate. So you can see there is a phosphate group and the sugar is fructose. So my enzyme will become, can you tell me what it will be?
Phosphofructokinase.
Phosphofructokinase. And whenever there is kinase, you know that what the cofactor is going to be. It's going to be magnesium ions, Mg2+. Okay, and obviously another byproduct that you should not miss to write over here is ADP. Okay, because ATP से phosphate निकालोगे, so ADP is going to be formed, and delta G for this particular reaction is around minus 3,400 calories at pH 7. Now in plants there is a slight difference. When this reaction takes place in plants, ATP is not the donor there. The donor of phosphate there is pyrophosphate, which we normally write as PPR. Okay. So enzyme is same, PFK. Phosphofructokinase is normally abbreviated as PFK. This is taking place in case of plants. You get fructose 1, 6 bisphosphate plus PI. Okay, because pyrophosphate means two phosphate groups. So one phosphate is taken up and the product is formed, and the another is released as a inorganic phosphate group. Now, the basic difference that you have to note is that in animals or in organisms where it takes place with ATP, it is an irreversible reaction. Okay, you cannot reverse it. But in case of plants where pyrophosphate is being utilized, it is a reversible reaction. Okay, now this you will ask me that why are we discussing which of these is reversible and which of these is not reversible. Please understand that in anabolism you will learn an ulta pathway which is called as gluconeogenesis, जहां पर हम ग्लाइकोलिसिस का उल्टा जाने की कोशिश करते हैं. और जब हम उल्टा जाएंगे, hurdles are going to be those reactions of glycolysis which are irreversible, which cannot be reversed. Like your first reaction where you converted glucose to glucose 6 phosphate, or a reaction like this wherein you converted fructose 6 phosphate to 1,6 bisphosphate, which are not reversible. So these reactions will become your obstacles in the reverse process, which we call as reverse glycolysis, or we call it as gluconeogenesis. So what happens, we will see at that time. But right now you have to understand that PFK's functioning in animals or in most of the microbial cells is irreversible. It's only in plants where pyrophosphate is used instead of ATP that the reaction is reversible. And obviously the enzyme is not exactly the same. Though we have named it the same, it's not the same at all. Okay, structurally as well. So please understand that in plants, this is one of the basic differences, right? So I hope that the reaction part is clear to you. The theory will obviously be longer and longer because this is also one of the most important enzymes from point of view of regulation, that how glycolysis is regulated. So this is an enzyme which is very significant from the regulation point of view also. But we will not speak about regulation right away because it makes sense to speak about regulation once the entire pathway is done. So we will see at the end when we discuss regulation how PFK has a very important role in controlling the rate with which glycolysis is taking place in any cell. But I hope that this reaction, this part is clear to all of you. So if yes, then please switch to the presentation where the reaction will be put up and you can copy the reaction down. Also, please do not forget that here you have to write ADP, which has been missed out. So please do not forget to write fructose 1,6 bisphosphate plus ADP. Please do not forget that. If you want, I'll just overwrite it over here so that it's not missed. So once done writing, let me know. We'll go ahead to the next reaction. Okay, great. So now we will move to the next uh, set of reactions. So before we go there, this slide just tells you about phosphofructokinase. The phosphofructokinase found in human muscles, it's a tetramer made up of 4 subunits, molecular weight around 360,000. It's a very important site for allosteric regulation, wherein the products or the components of the reaction can go and bind to the enzyme, bringing about a positive or a negative regulation. So negative regulation basically means that you are stopping the reaction, which is brought about by PFK. And positive regulation means that you are starting the reaction which was halted earlier. So there are different molecules which will bind for a negative or a positive regulation. So depending on which molecule binds to PFK, the reaction will change. Whether it's a positive or a negative regulation is dependent on which of these molecules were bound to it. But we will speak more about this, once we are done with the entire pathway, and we will come back to this part. Okay, so right now, don't, focus too much on this aspect. So the first three reactions were those reactions where the focus was to prepare glucose for its cleavage. Because glucose being a 6-carbon compound and pyruvate being a 3-carbon compound, we know that the 6-carbon compound has to be split, right? So now we are going to see how is that splitting mechanism exactly working over here. So the reaction is called cleavage, and the enzyme which works here is responsible for breaking the 6-carbon compound to form 2 compounds having 3 carbon atoms each. So for that, let us first write down our substrate, which is fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. So for better understanding, I'm going to write it in an open fashion rather than in the ring structure of fructose, so that it becomes easier for me to explain it to you. So look at this structure of fructose 1,6 bisphosphate. So what we are basically going to do over here is we are going to break this at the center. Okay, we are going to break it here. ये बॉन्ड हम तोड़ देंगे ताकि 3 कार्बन के 2 कंपाउंड्स मुझे मिलेंगे. ओके, सो सबसे पहले तो हमको याद रखना है कि ये जब ब्रेक डाउन होगा, so I'm going to get 2 different compounds. Okay, and let us see what those compounds basically are before we discuss the things ahead. So the first half will look like this: CH2O phosphate group, C double bond O, CH2OH. Now your question should be, here I can see CH and OH. Extra hydrogen kahan se hai? So the extra hydrogen that you can basically see there is going to be shuttled. Where is it going to be shuttled from? Should be your question. So it's going to be shuttled from this hydroxyl group. तो नीचे के कंपाउंड के हाइड्रोक्सिल ग्रुप में से एक हाइड्रोजन ये बॉन्ड स्प्लिट करते वक्त ऊपर शिफ्ट कर दिया जाएगा such that you get CH2OH. So it is obvious that in the next compound what is going to be left is CH double bond O, because हाइड्रोक्सिल का हाइड्रोजन चला गया, CHOH and CH2O phosphate. So these are the 2 compounds that I will form. Each of it has 3 carbon atoms. It's a completely reversible process, and the enzyme is aldolase. Why aldolase? We will discuss that once you know the names of this compound. So the compounds that you are forming here, the first compound that you see at the top is a compound having a name dihydroxy acetone phosphate. It's also abbreviated as DHAP, dihydroxy acetone phosphate. And the compound that you see below is glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. Or many people also call it as 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde. And when they write it as 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde, then they abbreviate it as 3-PGAL. Okay, so DHAP and PGAL. These are the two compounds that you synthesize, and as you're synthesizing an aldehyde by cleaving the 6-carbon compound, that's why you have your enzyme name as aldolase. Okay. Now the delta G for this reaction is again positive and highly positive, and that's the reason why you need a very strong enzyme to push this reaction to completion. This is at pH 7. Okay, and this cleavage is very essential for glycolysis to move ahead. Until and unless this cleavage happens, you cannot go to the next phase of glycolysis at all. So this cleavage is one of the most significant steps when it comes to moving to the next phase, which is the payoff phase of glycolysis. So you're doing nothing, you're just breaking the 6-carbon compound, which is fructose 1,6 bisphosphate at the center, such that you get two compounds each having 3 carbon atoms, one being your dihydroxyacetone phosphate, which is DHAP, and the another being glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, which can also be written as 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde. That's why we are writing it as 3-PGAL. Delta G being highly positive, 5,500 calories at pH 7. It's a reversible reaction. And as you are forming an aldehyde in this process, the enzyme name is going to be aldolase. Okay. Now, very quickly, as the next reaction is very much in connection to this, I'm going to complete it with this itself. So the next reaction is an isomerization step. Okay. It's an isomerization because the two products that you have formed till now, that is DHAP and 3-PGAL, let me tell you that they are isomers of each other. And DHAP is comparatively less stable. So we are going to be converting it to its stable isomeric form, which is glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. Okay, so both of them are isomers of each other, so we can convert it from one form to the other. This is my DHAP and this is my 3-PGAL. You know that whenever you have isomerization, going to be isomerase. Okay, now here you have a phosphate group, DHAP. So my first prefix is going to be phospho. It's a 3-carbon compound. Okay, but unfortunately with no sugars associated there, so we write it just as triose. So phosphotriose isomerase, or you will also see the books writing it as triose phosphate isomerase. Either of it is okay. Both are correct. You either write it as phosphotriose isomerase or you write it as triose phosphate isomerase. Both are okay. So this was the 5th reaction. You had phosphorylation where you converted glucose to glucose 6-phosphate. You had isomerization where you converted glucose 6-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate. You had phosphorylation where you converted fructose 6-phosphate to 1,6 bisphosphate. You had cleavage where you cleaved 1,6 bisphosphate to DHAP and 3-PGAL. And then in isomerization, you converted that DHAP also to 3-PGAL. So right now, what do we have? We are left with 2 molecules of 3-PGAL. How two? One which was formed during cleavage and the another which was formed by isomerization of DHAP. So that's how you are left with 2 molecules of 3-PGAL. So going back to the presentation, you will see the reaction there. So cleavage is between the third and the fourth carbon of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, which helps you form two triose phosphates, one being dihydroxyacetone phosphate and the another being glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Okay, and we saw isomerization, wherein we said that triose phosphate isomerase or phosphotriose isomerase is responsible for converting DHAP to its stable isomeric form, which is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Okay, so we have come to the end of the first phase, because the first phase has 5 reactions, the second phase has 5 reactions. So we have reached the end of the very first phase of glycolysis. I quickly want you to note down the reactions. So this reaction is called cleavage. Write this reaction down, and then I will switch to the slide of isomerization. So you can write that reaction as well. So once you're done with this slide, let me know. Okay, I can see done messages coming up, so I'm shifting to the next isomerization reaction. Quickly note the reaction now.